Chewie Darso.
Hi.
And Emily Blake.
Hey.
Jonathan Hardesty is still dead. We still miss him very much. And here his newborn daughter is quite fun. So I look forward to meeting her at some point.
Quite fun in all the photos where she's asleep.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of awake photos.
No.
He's got a lot of snoozing baby photos.
Being born is hard.
Yeah, it looks like it's exhausting. Special guest this week, we have Tamara Brooks.
Hello.
Back from our Wonder Woman episode, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We probably need a whole nother episode because we got off on a lot of tangents to talk about the movie.
Yeah, we do that
Great, it was
sometimes,
academic.
Yeah, it was,
and then we have Diego Mariscal back.
Hello.
Mariscal. Did I fuck your name
Mariscal.
again?
Yeah, you did.
I'm going to do
It's
it
fun.
every time you're here.
It's great. It's tradition.
Diego, I totally forgot what other episode you're on. Which one are you on?
We did the one with the girl that was dying.
Oh, that doesn't narrow anything down.
Yeah, really.
I'm blanking now too.
Yeah,
I
the one
totally
with the
forgot.
girl that was sick, and then the boyfriend stayed with her, and then
The Big Sick?
Sweet Stuff.
Romano.
Terrible.
Yeah, the big sick.
Yeah,
okay,
Big
it was
Sick.
You made that sound like a terrible movie.
No, it was a great movie. I loved it.
That's a really good movie.
I was
That
like,
was a great
Sweet
movie.
November?
How many rom-coms /
Yeah.
teen dramas?
That was the
The
best
Fault
one.
in Our Stars? I don't remember doing that.
But they're both dying in The Fault in Their Stars, right?
Yeah.
Everyone
Am I not close enough?
Yeah.
Sorry.
sweet teenage love stories with death.
Even when I was
Teenage
a
loves
fucking...
cancer.
Romeo and Juliet.
Even when
and
I
they're
was
all
a
trying to
teenager, I
recreate
did
it.
not understand why dying was romantic.
Because of Shakespeare.
Like this,
Because of
why do they
Shakespeare.
keep making all these really goth movies that aren't about goths?
Because of Shakespeare.
Because of Shakespeare.
My favorite thing is like Romeo and Juliet, such a great love story. It's a tragedy. It's a
Yeah,
tragedy.
exactly.
And it's
It's
straight
just
up
about
a tragedy.
hormones and how dumb they make
Yeah.
About a 13-year-old girl killing herself over a boy.
Yeah.
She's known for 2 days.
But we're in love.
All right, we'll do a quick where have you been doing before we jump into today's episode. I will happily go first because this week, much like the rest of comic book fandom, I celebrated Superman's birthday with Action Comics 1000, which was awesome, and I'm very excited that it happened. It is one of 2 comics that are recently going to hit 1,000. Detective Comics will hit it here, I think, in 6 months. I could be a little bit off on that, but somewhat soon. And then we won't have another 1,000 issue for a long time. So it's a really big deal, and it was really exciting. The next one I was talking to my comic book store, should be Spider-Man, I think, because they're at 800 right now. So we still have 200 issues till we get to another 1,000th issue.
It wouldn't be Batman? Isn't Batman?
Well,
Detective
yeah.
Comics.
But and then when did Batman start? Though?
They haven't done legacy numbering on those. So,
Oh wow.
And they've started and stopped so many times. It's
Right.
It's
The
tougher.
last track.
Yeah, and they were Detective Comics for so long till actual Batman started. I don't know when that actual book started. But yeah.
And they always ran at the same time. So
Right.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, hey, people like Batman. Let's give him 15 more books.
But yeah, the issue's really cool. I also got the hard copy of the 80 Years of Superman, which is like a 300 collection of different books of Superman's legacy, which is really cool, including Marv Wolfman, who had saved a very old, originally drawn by Joel Shuster and Joel Siegel. They'd drawn out a book, decided they didn't want to do it, and threw it away.
Oh.
And he was an intern at DC at the time, and went and found those pages and hung on to
Wow.
them all these years. And then for the 80th anniversary, they're like, "Hey, can we print those?" And he said, "Only if you let me script it."
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
So he got to script a book that was drawn by the
By
original creator of
Schuster,
Superman.
wow.
Just so you guys know, it's very important to always dumpster dive when you're young.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's really cool if you've ever enjoyed comics at all. I'm not even trying to say that just for Superman fans. It's worth picking up because it's just such an awesome celebration of comics and everything. That's it for me, though. Chewie, what have you been doing?
Well, we actually had a very busy week. We did the Star Wars Void Experience.
Which was awesome.
Little expensive for how long it is, 15 minutes. But
What
it
is it?
It's a VR experience where you're on a full immersive thing where you get just your sight is VR, and then you get big headphones so you can only hear what's in the VR. And you have a front and back, chest and back plate that does vibrate while you're walking through it. And
Especially if you get shot.
yeah. And they just have a course that's laid out to match what is in the VR. So you're walking around, and at one point, K9 tells not K9.
That would
Wrong
be
robot.
amazing.
If K9 showed up in the Star Wars experience, I'd be so happy.
The robot from Rogue One, I forgot his name.
K2SO.
K2SO tells you to sit down, and then you look behind you, and you're like, oh, there is a bench, and then you just like touch it and be like, oh, there is a bench.
It's very scary because you're blind
you're
and
getting
deaf, and
used
it's
to
like,
it,
I
yeah.
need to sit down. Oh my
You
god!
have to trust what's going like is actually around you, and for a moment it's a little disorientating, but then it's a lot of fun. The picture is not included in the cost at the end, which is annoying. And then we saw Isle of Dogs, and we saw A Quiet Place, and
We're recording 2 episodes today.
Yeah.
You gotta save some of this stuff, dude.
well, I'll just talk about Isle of Dogs right now, really fast. I enjoyed it, but I've come to decide I'm getting really annoyed at Wes Anderson and how he can't write female characters. Before, I was always very forgiving for him because they seemed fun and quirky, and now I'm just like, no, every single freaking female character he writes is on a pedestal. They're like a wise goddess or just a quirky thing.
There's also the issue of the cultural appropriation from that movie. I've heard
Well,
about.
he did it with Japanese people, like it was a cross-cultural creation.
And-
So that cultural appropriation doesn't really work for me when you actually have a writer that is Japanese with you writing it.
And most of a good portion of the movies in Japanese with no subtitles. Like
With
they
Japanese actors?
With Japanese, yeah.
So you can't really... I don't like it when people jump on the cultural appropriation train really quickly because I'm like, wait, we are a global economy, a global... Like, we're all connected at this point. Why can't we actually work together on some things? And it's not necessarily cultural appropriation.
Well, no, I don't think that was. I don't. Since I didn't see the movie. I just read an article about the criticisms.
Yeah,
of it,
it's
so.
the people like to jump on that these days. I'm like, Ghost in the Shell. Okay, that's dumb. Cultural appropriation / whitewashing. This movie, not so much. But there's only 2 female dogs the whole movie. 2. An entire Isle of Dogs. There's 2 female dogs.
Like the Smurfs.
And
Yeah.
One
exactly.
extra.
and they both just come up with mysterious lighting looking down at the male dogs going, I am wise. I know things, essentially. And it's really irritating. And really the only Wes Anderson movie that doesn't have that is,
Moonrise Kingdom.
yes, Moonrise Kingdom, the one
Little
with
girl, yeah.
the camping with the girl.
Yeah.
Like, she's actually her own character and drives a lot of the plot. Every other Wes Anderson movie, the girl is just like this beautiful thing someone's obsessed with. Wow. And I'm just like, come on, Wes Anderson, you're better than this. Just try a little bit.
Is he though?
Yeah,
He could. I don't know. I always feel like everyone has it's the same. I feel like everyone has a potentiality to be the worst person in the world.
Sure.
Everyone has a potentiality of being the best.
Right.
And when you're a very talented artist, all you have to do is just start putting a little effort into it, and you might make something amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I just when a certain writer has certain tendencies, I feel like it is after a certain point almost impossible for them to evolve
Well, they
from
keep
that and
getting
break them.
validated by their choices over and over again. Why should they change?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not validating him anymore. Write a good fucking female character, and maybe try to actually have a black character or someone else.
That
in
would
there
be
at some
cool.
point.
I'm okay. I'm good.
Honestly, what I wanted to do is a gay character because I think he could write one really well, and that might actually be in his wheelhouse. Because
He's
it could
never
still
done
be
that.
a dude. It could still
Yeah.
have all the dude problems, and he'd still be expanding his horizons a little bit. Baby steps. We'll get him
Baby
there.
steps. Still
Emily-
involves a penis.
Still a dude. Still can have like daddy issues. He can still do all the Wes Anderson things. Just let's start including more people.
Yeah.
But whatever.
But other than that, it was still a great movie with great claymation. And, I mean, as a dog person, I mean, I'm an animal person, but for anyone who's more specifically about dogs, it really is about how much are you willing to sacrifice or fight for your pet, which is a fun message for me.
I would murder for my pet.
Yeah. Well, this kid almost dies multiple times for his pet.
Spends a whole movie with a pipe hanging out of his head. I really liked it, but I don't have any defense whatsoever for a single complaint you just made. So it's like, I like the movie, but anywho.
Yeah.
Emily, what about you? Where have you been doing?
I watched Lost in Space, and I really enjoyed it. Parker Posey is awesome as Dr. Smith. She's so hateful, but what's beautiful about her is that she genuinely, constantly tries to convince everyone that she's not evil. Like, it seems really important to her that everyone not think she's evil as she
now
does
she's
evil
evil.
things,
Okay.
which is really
I
great.
haven't watched it yet.
Oh yeah, no, Dr. Smith's a bad guy. Like, that's
How much
established pretty early
scenery does she chew?
on. No, she's not that bad actually. Not that
Oh,
bad.
I
Her
think-
hair chews a lot. It is a terrible haircut. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed the way that I never watched the original series. I watched the movie, which is pretty great, guys. And so
With
that
Matt
was
LeBlanc.
that was my only.
It was the second DVD I ever bought.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like waiting for the Matt LeBlanc. Actually, the guy who's the Matt LeBlanc character is pretty awesome too. I like the way that they. It's really like again, my only reference is the movie, but it's kind of like it's sort of like the first season is all leading up to stuff. So it's sort of like establishing their world, and you really take the time to get to know these people, but also to get to know like the familiar world. And it's not really until the end of the season where you see them really start to get into what the show's going to become. So it's almost like an epilogue, or not epilogue,
Prequel?
prequel, I guess, or
It's a prologue?
prologue. That's the word I'm going for.
Season-long prologue.
Season-long prologue,
That sounds
essentially.
exhausting.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing they did with Preacher. You know, the
Yeah.
first season of Preacher was building up to where the comic book really exists.
And the second season went,
And the second
Yeah.
season went, you know that promise we made? Nah.
I'm Seth Rogen. I break promises.
Yeah, but no, I loved the emotions. I felt really worried about characters a lot, and there's some scenes where you're like, holy shit, how are they getting out of? There was a lot of that. It does a really great job of putting problems on problems. So you're like, oh shit, how are they getting out of this? Oh, I think they can. Oh nope, they can't get out that way. Oh shit, now what? This happened too. Oh no, like they're totally fucked. It's just really like a lot of that.
That's screenwriting 101. I
Yeah,
remember
man.
learning that in college. All right, you put your characters in this
Yeah.
thing. What's the worst thing that could happen?
There's a lot of that on this show. It's really great.
How many episodes is it?
I don't remember.
10 or 13?
Something like that.
Okay.
13 maybe. I don't
Yeah, I mean,
remember. I
and that
watched
make,
all of them.
I think from if you are, born before like 1995, you are more used to like 24 episodes thing. Not that they don't do that anymore, but I think like everyone is getting more used to shorter seasons now.
Yeah.
We're becoming the British.
Yes,
Yeah,
which is not
fine.
Yeah, and I think that it actually works better with sci-fi sometimes, anyways, because it lets you focus on where you're going as opposed to having that space to meander in the middle. Like it's like, okay, well, we've got 22 episodes. Really, this arc only needs 18. We've got 3 episodes of meandering, and sometimes,
filler.
sometimes they meander good, and sometimes they
And
meander bad.
there's no pressure in the modern binge culture to have standalone episodes,
Sure.
which is really hard for sci-fi shows to do.
Yeah.
And they always try to do it, and it never works. They always end up going with mythology, unless they're supernatural, I guess.
I don't agree with that at all. There's a lot of standalone Star Trek episodes that are fantastic.
Well, Star Trek is episodic by nature.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm talking like broad,
But
there's a
the
ton
arc
of sci-fi shows.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, Supernatural is an arc-based show, but does have cases of the week. So
Yeah.
it's,
But like for instance, like Enterprise season 3 was a season-long story arc, and if they hadn't had to do standalones, it would have been a perfect season. The standalones are what kill it.
I've never
Season 3 of Enterprise, I will defend to anyone. It is amazing, except for a couple of really bad standalone episodes. But it's a fun, and if that season had 13 episodes instead of 20, however many it had, it would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Tamara, what about you?
I have been watching a lot of random stuff and wrestling. Because plug, I'm on a podcast called Women Wrestling Friends with my friend Sarah the Rebel. And so we have mostly women on the show to come talk about wrestling, because it's another one of those spaces where you're like, no, women won't do this. And it's like, no. Wherever there is a fandom, women will be there. So
I'm not sure if you're right about that. I'm pretty sure fandom's for men only.
I mean, think of something.
who wants to watch really
Magic the Gathering.
buff dudes oiled down wrestle each other and do spectacular athletic feats? No woman's interested in that.
Only men.
Oh yeah,
Clearly.
clearly only men.
There's a whole
Is
TV
it-
show now about women in wrestling.
Yeah.
Are there any female fans of Duck Dynasty?
Are there fans
sure.
of Duck Dynasty?
There are. They have
those
a lot
same
of they have a
ladies-
lot of products at Walmart.
Those are the same ladies who buy like the pearl-handled pink pistols.
Yes.
Okay.
And in the darkest corners of the darkest minds, in the darkest spaces, you will find them.
They will be there.
They will be there. So I did that, and then so I want to talk about this a little bit because this is a very old movie that I finally saw the end of, which I never watched the entire thing because I didn't want to. So I believe it's called Obsessed, and it's Idris Elba and Beyonce and Ali Larter, and it's basically like a kind of Fatal Attractions kind of thing.
Oh, I worked with the DP on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's one of those movies where I was interested in it because I know, you know how this movie's going to end. It's going to end with Ali Larter and Beyonce's characters in a fight, and Ali Larter's going to die because you know that's how this
Beyonce's
is
not going to lose at anything
100%,
ever.
right? Exactly. She stays winning. So, that movie was on, so I was like, okay, it's got like maybe 20 minutes left in it. Great, this is perfect. I'll be able to see the last fight. So I turn it on, and essentially, Ali Larter's character was a temp at Idris Elba's company, and then got, as the title says, obsessed. And so she thinks that they're together and it's going to be a whole thing. She actually like takes their baby out of the house, and that was like last straw. Beyonce calls
That's
him,
the
leaves
last
a message.
straw? I feel like-
Well, it was like okay, we're fine with the police dealing with this, and then she touched Beyonce's baby, and
white
Beyonce left a message on her thing talking about, hey, a knuck if you buck. Like basically, she was like, if I see you again, it's gonna get down. And so it was actually a pretty satisfying fight. I think there are a couple of points in it where I'm like, realistically, why didn't this fight wouldn't have went as long as it did? Because even though Ali Larter had crazy strength on her side, like in terms of like she's out of her mind, and then is like in all these movies whenever someone's
Beyonce could have just used her magic Beyonce powers.
exactly. So there's a part where like she's trying to like hit her with a lamp, and then I don't know, it's a whole thing. So anyways, I just kept waiting for like there are these moments where Beyonce's character has her on the ground and is like trying to drag her back by her legs, like, and she's doing all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yes, this is satisfying. Good, excellent. And it's a nice epic like Disney villain fall death kind of thing. So like you get that moment where Beyonce is gonna try and save her, but then she's trying to take her, Beyonce with her, but Beyonce will not do that. So she's prying her fingers off of her, and you get that nice Disney villain fall through a table, which is a glass table, because they keep cutting to the glass cable, so you know that's coming. So, anyways, that's super random, and
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
I feel like I don't
wanna
have to
go
watch
watch
it
it.
anymore.
yeah, exactly.
You want to watch it? I feel like I don't
wanna
have
watch
to
it.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not really into those type of movies.
Yeah.
No.
I
Last
never
but,
even saw Fatal Attraction.
last but not least, Diego, what about you? What have you been doing?
I finally finished Ready Player One, the book. It's taken me probably like 3 months to read it, and I finally got through it before I watched the movie, which has been it's a great book. If you have not read it, I highly recommend it. And I've actually started playing a lot of Fortnite with all my little cousins and everything. They're all into that, so I'm playing a lot of video games, and I'm also playing one called Horizon Zero Dawn.
I just started that as well.
Amazing game. It's better than a movie. It's really, really, really a great game.
The pacing of the story of that is insanely well done.
Yeah, it takes you along for a ride, and you do not want to stop. I have to tell myself like in 2 hours stop playing. Like
Brian
you
just had a
go.
time warp experience with it, where he's like, I'm going to play for 20 minutes. Oh, it's 4 hours.
Yeah, it just goes. It's fun. It just goes. Yeah, and just been doing that, and then I got to watch Dredd. I watched that yesterday for this, and I rewatched The Crow during the week. Saw my movie again.
I didn't watch your guys'
Road
movies.
to I just did it. So I was like, oh, these are actually good movies. I haven't seen.
After what happened with Hook, I no longer underestimate you. So I watched your movie
Yeah.
and I made notes.
She does have the best line out of anyone's movies here. Just so you all know. I will be unbiased once I start judging, but
Sure
she
you
has
will.
the
Sure
best
you will.
line.
There's a lot of one-liners in The Crow.
Yeah, but it also has caw, bang, fuck, I'm dead, which is the best thing ever said in a comic book movie forever. I don't think the rest of your movie is as good as that one line.
Yeah,
though. Just
whatever.
saying.
No, there's that one though where he gets where he gets
You
shot.
don't have to talk about The Crow.
No, I'm sorry.
We're talking about what you've been doing.
That's a good transition. though.
If that was everything, though, we should get started on today's battle. So this one is coming out, should be, as long as I can do everything correctly, today. If you're listening to this, Avengers Infinity War has just come out.
You guys got your tickets?
Yeah,
Everyone
for
at the table
for
has
two
tickets.
different
That's
days.
great.
Yeah,
That's great.
we're going tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning.
9:30 in the morning.
Friday at 8, and then Saturday at 4:15.
we're all really banking on this movie being incredible.
Yeah.
I'm just
It
trying
will be.
to. I want to start a pool and like make bets on who's dying.
That's.
I
Can we talk about who we think?
I don't want to know anyone's dying. I don't want to know anyone's dying.
But we don't
People
know.
We don't
have
know.
to die.
Oh, we know.
No,
you look
I
up
don't
their
They have to
you look up
die.
their contracts
Why?
so
Yes,
when they're
because
over.
the Marvel's just gonna suck so bad if none of them die.
I don't want to know. I
'Cause
hate when
this is-
TV shows are like, on the next episode, one of these will die. I'm like, don't fucking tell me that. Now I'm gonna spend the whole episode
Otherwise,
waiting for
there's
somebody
no
to die.
consequences, and then they all have plot armor, and it's not fun.
I'm not sure if anyone will die because I don't fully trust that Marvel will do that, but I do think someone will.
I want to see some fucking people die
I think that'd be a big one.
because their contracts
so
are
too.
up, and they're all tired of making these movies.
I have a
Yeah.
I have a theory that is not based on anything because I have not been looking at the news for this movie.
That they're all scrolls because that's where I'm at right now.
no,
That would be fun.
but it's like one of those things where like I want to say what might happen, but then like I don't. If Emily doesn't want to hear my theory,
Oh, I
then
mean,
I
your
don't-
Emily,
theory's fine.
earmuffs. Let it rip.
yeah. Okay. So the whole thing is that Thanos is actually going to succeed, but Tony will be left standing because of
Really?
his armor.
I thought he
and
was
then
the
he
one that
will
was definitely gonna die.
give me a second. And then he will get the time stone, shove it into his arc reactor, be able to go back in time before it happens, and then like ultimate self-sacrifice and save people. That's my theory.
I like it.
I'm not
I
sure
could
if
see
I
that,
like that.
but I
don't really like the MacGuffin of I'm gonna go back in time and save everyone.
in my
Galaxy Quest.
opinion, and then we'll move into today's episode. I don't think they'll set the plot around the Time Stone because that's already been established, and we have not established the Soul Stone yet. So I
Sure.
think that will be the plot MacGuffin, if you will.
That's
Because
very
That's
possible.
the only one we haven't seen yet.
It's just I feel like I feel very strongly that Tony's gonna be perma-dead at the end
Oh
of this
yeah,
one.
yeah.
So because like everything started with him, and so this is kind of like some, and I might be wrong because there's like 15 other ways you could write it, but I'm just like thinking in my head like the different kind of stuff that would happen.
Yeah.
Hawkeye's a dead man walking as soon as his family showed up. I'm sorry, that's just the way it happened.
Hawkeye's butt.
Yeah.
Oh, we
So-
got such a, can we keep his butt alive?
We keep the butt alive.
Anyhow,
Hashtag keep Hawkeye's butt alive.
all right. So here we go.
Hawkeye's
So
butt will live in your heart.
because of this movie coming
Yes,
out today / tomorrow, I wanted to do a comic book battle, and I feel that we've covered DC and Marvel to death on this show.
Everyone has.
Yeah, everyone has. So I figured what would be better than going to all of the other wonderful comic book movies that have been coming out for years and doing a battle of those. So
We did a pretty good job of spanning time here.
yeah. So I think, yeah, we've done a really good job of 90s to current. Was there anything from the 80s? I don't think so, right?
There's probably shouldn't be anything from the 80s.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Good point. It's like, what,
Punisher. I don't
There
know.
was- there was-
There was the Punisher.
That
Wasn't Howard the Duck in the 80s?
Yeah.
Howard the Duck was the 80s.
Yeah.
Were those two Captain America
Although
movies?
that's
Was that
The really
early
bad
80s?
ones,
The one with the
Yeah.
perfect
Early
ears on the
80s.
helmet?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are 80s.
Masters of the Universe was a cartoon show.
The
Yeah.
Shadow? Was the Shadow's 90s?
The Shadow was 90s.
Yeah.
There you go, the
Dick
Masters of the
Van Dyke-
Universe.
Not
Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke. Dick Tracy.
Really
was
glad
the
no one's doing that
90s.
one.
Phantom was the 90s.
I guess the
Yeah.
90s was a big
Yeah,
era
ni-
for like noir comic book movies.
Yeah,
So-
the strips.
So, really quick around the table, let's say what we all have. Chewie has.
The Crow.
Dredd.
The Rocketeer.
Road to Perdition.
One of these is not like the other.
The classic comic book.
I mean, when Road to Perdition came out, I'd never even heard of the comic, so I did not know.
I had already read it.
So
Yeah,
did I.
of
It
course
was
you
a
had.
great comic book.
And that was, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a straight up graphic novel. Like, it wasn't even
Yeah,
released like
so it's a
issues, right?
oneer. Just
Yep. It's really, really good. You guys should read it. And then the one that I was going to do when I was not going to host was going to be Blue is the Warmest Color, because that movie is fucking awesome. And the book is just as good as the movie, but totally different. But that's for another
that
day,
movie
or a
is
former podcast we recorded like 3 years ago.
Emotional.
It is very emotional. It's a 3-hour long conversation with intermittent sex scenes. But very good movie. So, as I like to do when I judge, I like to go chronological. So, who has the first movie? Is it...
Mine came out in 91.
We got 91.
That's definitely.
I think it's 91.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm guessing
looks
93 for
Yeah,
the
something like
Crow?
I
that.
was 94.
Ah,
Okay.
so close.
Made in
Alright,
93.
Very close.
So I'm still right. Let me get a timer going for you. And then, man. And I'm going to erase all my bias right now, which I have a large one against the Rocketeer because they made the most annoying opening game for their Super Nintendo game.
Oh,
does that have to
God,
do with the
yes.
movie?
You're absolutely
so
right.
mad. If you could get past the training level, you couldn't play the game.
That's
the
like
training
me
level is impossible.
That's like me hating Tim Burton's Batman because I rage quit that game when I was 7.
That's a hard. The NES one.
It's as bad
That's
as
a hard
the
game,
East
man.
one, guys.
Well, oh, come on. You can't just play that trump card. All right, so we got a 5-minute timer here for you to state your case why The Rocketeer is the best comic book movie on the table today.
Okay, so first of all, this movie was directed by Joe Johnston, and Joe Johnston also went on to do Captain America: The First Avenger, which is currently the best Superman movie out in the theater in the
use a
last
different
20
movie to
years.
defend your
I'm
movie.
not saying. I'm just saying that he has a track record of doing good, earnest, period piece character movies. Another reason why this movie is great: punch a Nazi. It holds up the long-standing tradition of heroes punching fucking Nazis. Because you know what you should do to Nazis? You should punch them.
Definitely punch them.
And also, it's got a great cast. Besides Bill Campbell and Alan Arkin and Paul Sorvino, they've got Terry O'Quinn and Timothy Dalton and Eddie Jones, who was Pa Kent, Lois and Clark, international treasure and Oscar winner Margot Martindale. And Melora Hardin in a very small part as a singer in the nightclub, and she's got a really great voice, and her outfits look great. Jennifer Connelly's super dope. She's not dumb. One of the major parts of this movie is her playing the main bad guy, which is Dalton, by acting, and him not noticing it. He just is so hyped on his own supply that he does not know that she's playing him, and it's great. And it has a really great hero shot, which you like these hero shots. So he's on the top of the observatory in front of an American flag with a pistol as a spotlight hits him. It's a great shot. So,
Great.
And then to go further. Okay, so I think we have a problem in society, especially post 9/11 drudgeries, that earnest heroes are not a thing that we get anymore. And I feel like Cliff Secord is just he doesn't even start out. He's like, I'm gonna fight crime or whatever. It's just he is a pilot. His plane got fucked up. He found this rocket pack. He's like, oh, I'm gonna try and see what it is. And then he gets pulled in this international Nazi intrigue. But he just does the right thing. He's just doing the right thing. He's not super he just has a skill as a pilot. In fact, this is almost like a Green Lantern movie.
Green Lantern
But
is
not.
definitely a movie you want to compare it to.
Well,
She's playing
No.
to her audience.
no, but it's a good version of a Green Lantern movie in a way. It's the relationship that Jenny and Cliff have is a kind of a relationship you expect in some of these movies, even though it's not as kind of sarcastic and bantery as Green Lantern has, Hal Jordan has with his girl. But yeah, there is a joy to me, and a definite skill in doing homages to these 40s adventure serials. There's not a lot of people that can do them and do them well. It's like Indiana Jones, the 90s Mummy, this, and then that's kind of it. There's not a lot of people, and it's a fun kind of thing. It gets you, it's adventurous. It's not too dark. It's not too light. You have some crazy stuff happening in the middle of it. And I just feel like there's a sense of just real warmth for it. And I like movies that make me feel warmth. I like movies where I can hooray with the good guys and boo at the villains. And Timothy Dalton is a great villain in this. And he has a spectacular death scene. Spoiler alert for a 30-year-old movie. But yeah, I just really enjoy the film. I feel like it's earnest without being corny, and when it is corny, it's purposefully corny. It's just very aware of what it's doing, and I think it's a hard thing to pull off, and I think that it should be lauded for that. Even if the box office didn't hit where it's supposed to, I never got a sequel, and I'm very bitter about that. But there's a lot of great movies that didn't make a lot of money at the box office, and there's a lot of terrible movies, Transformers, that makes a ton of money, and we're still seeing, things. So that has nothing to do with it. I just really like it, and I want to hug it. It's a good movie. That's it. I'm not even going to take my whole time. I'm done. That's
You
good.
nearly got
Yeah.
there. You're within 30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay, so 5 minutes to say why this thing is not as great. I hear that Emily took notes on this.
I did. One, my entire life, I have thought of Matthew Modine, as the guy from The Rocketeer. So what I learned yesterday watching this movie is that he is not in this movie. So that's my first complaint. So it's a little I feel like it was a little hokey for me. I mean, I know that's what you like about it, and it is the only movie on the table that's not super depressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, first of all, the science in this movie is super sketch.
Science.
They're like, oh, your helmet is a rudder.
Yeah.
It will move. That's not how. No,
His
that does not make
pants
And even
never
when he's
light
flying,
on
he
fire.
looks to the left and right, and it's like he's not turning.
Also, he's going so fucking fast. You would just die. All your clothes would rip
His
off.
legs,
Yeah.
the fire on
His
the
legs
legs.
would be on fire.
And you knock into one thing and you're fucking done. I mean, like, it's the science, guys. The science does not pan out. It's really unsafe. It's an incredibly unsafe device.
If we were
Now,
go-
I'm asking
I
the
didn't-
question. Hold on a second. So tomorrow, knowing that the science does not hold up, does the world make that okay? Is the world built enough where the science doesn't need to hold up?
It's kind of because like basically what they're just saying is like this is an invention. It's a suspension of disbelief because they're talking about the mechanics of how that thing works, and they go through a testing mode of this is how this works. So I think it's not necessary for the science to be super accurate in here. I mean, like everything else is making, Timothy Dalton's actor Neville Sinclair did not actually exist. I mean, it has Howard Hughes in it, who's a real guy, but I don't think it's. There's a lot of complaints that I'd be like, okay, but like the science being ready, I'm kind of like, I mean, you didn't even know Matthew Modine wasn't in it, so I don't know.
For me, it's two things. One, you were trying to say how great it is because of Joe Johnston. Joe Johnston did a very good job with Captain America, but
Yes.
he also did Wolfman in Jurassic Park 3.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying he was great at
So-
everything.
He is very hit and miss with his repertoire.
He did design Star Wars universe and everything though too.
We're not going into this. There was a lot of people that designed the Star Wars universe.
no Star Wars.
And then I'm a huge fan of consequences. Where I was actually just saying about Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, whatever it's going to be called. And in this movie, however much I do enjoy this movie, you never worry about anyone. You're not like really on at the edge of your seat going, "Oh my God, are they going to make it?" It's so feel good that you never worry. Like, you don't need to really even watch a lot of the movie to be like, I know what's going to happen.
Counterpoint: as a kid, you're not sure of all that stuff. This is a family movie,
I guess, but
so
does that make it the best movie though? If it's just so safe, it's just so great for kids.
I don't think it's safe. I think that it plays into the sort of concerns for safety that are good for like 5-year-old. Like, I was watching some episodes of the Wonder Woman initial series, the Linda Carter series, and it was like one of these episodes that I remember freaking me out as a kid. And I'm watching this and watching it now, and I'm like, okay, well, this is going. I don't remember everything that's happening on the episode, but I can tell this is going to happen or whatever. But they did a good job of making kid me believe in the danger. When you're 7, you're not thinking, you don't know you're not smart enough to understand all the things about like, oh, the show's called Wonder Woman, she's going to be safe every week. Like one of the consequences of this episode is she gets hypnotized to not know that she's Wonder Woman. So I think that it plays in, it's like a good family romp, which is again not a necessarily thing we get live action all the time.
I will also say Jennifer Connelly is lovely, and that white dress is fabulous, and
Yes.
I want it.
White dresses, no matter what, unless it's at your wedding, are unrealistic, and people need to not wear them.
It's the
So good
40s.
in it. But again, and she does have that scene where she outacts Timothy Dalton, which is pretty cool. However, she is at heart a damsel through the entire movie, and she's nothing more than the love interest she's Marion from Raiders. It's the same basic scenario. So Margot Martindale's fabulous, as always. But yeah, I feel like
I would argue that this movie is slave to formula more than
Yeah,
any of the other films
very
on
much
the
so.
table.
I mean, and I will say also contextually in 1991, we're not
Disney.
It's Disney's
Disney,
1991,
guys.
and I think that I I don't necessarily think that being formula, because everything's a formula technically if you break it down. So it's just a matter of how you execute
but
it.
then there's being slave to formula.
And we're out of time.
Okay. Haha. Finger guns.
Speaking of formulas.
All right, so next would be Crow, correct?
Go.
Crow. Bang! Fuck! I'm dead. Hey! All right, back to not being biased. Again, it's really just that one line. All right, so Chewie, here are your 5 minutes to say why The Crow is the best movie on the table.
So The Crow, guys. It's 1994, and grunge is popular, but you know what's going to kick grunge out the door? Goth. This movie was so influential, it became a cliche. Like, it was, at least in my high school, everyone that was anywhere close to being edgy was obsessed with it. And everyone wanted to be the Crow every Halloween. Even so, like we were talking about with South Park, that they had an entire episode where Satan was going, all right, no one can dress up as the Crow. And then Satan ended up dressing up as the Crow. Because he wanted to be that. Because it's moody, it's sexy, and it's dangerous. This is what people love. And Brandon Lee, rest in peace, died for this movie. This was supposed to be his, like, big, like, I'm going to be a huge movie star. And you watch him in this movie, and he embodies the character. He's full camp. He's full emo. He's full, like, everything. And full romance. The romance in this movie is, like, top so sappy it's dripping bloody gore with romance, almost. I know. I'm getting a huge face from Emily right now.
No, continue.
Because the whole movie is about... It's a revenge thing about this guy who was murdered while his girlfriend was being brutalized by a bunch of hoodlums in Detroit. And my God, do they make Detroit look awful. Like, I read a review about this movie where they said, Detroit makes Gotham look joyful.
That's pretty accurate, I think.
And it's just, this movie, yes, at some point you could say it's kind of cheesy at this point, but nothing like it had really been shown before at the time. They did steer away from the source material. Like, they didn't get killed in their apartment in the comic book. They got killed on the side of the street. And the rape scene's way more brutal in the comic book, of course. And just as a young person, when I watched this movie, it's like, oh, it speaks to me. I have so many emotions, and I feel the angst. I feel the need to avenge things. I'm not going to do it because I'll go to jail. But in one night, he burns people down. Actually, it takes place in about 2 nights. Because it starts out with Devil's Night, which is the night before Halloween. And then you go into Halloween. And they have a very sweet scene when he is won. He killed all the people that killed his girlfriend, and he's just sitting there laughing and watches kids playing. So it's like there's some joy in it a little bit.
Joy in the Crow.
Yeah. It does have the damsel with the teenage little girl, but she's a little girl, so it's more damsel-y. You're like, what are you going to do, girl? She has her drug-addled mom who is drug-addled. The Crow, she gets the morphine to come back out of her arms, so he's kind of a savior for her, so that's nice. He's a savior within his revenge at the same time. He's a very sympathetic character. And I'm trying to think of more.
How's the villain?
Oh my God, the villains in this movie. Talk about sappy and over the top and everything. The hoodlums themselves each embody like a certain type of thing, where you got the guy that's just all about killing. You got the guy that's just plain dumb.
Skank.
Skank.
Skank, that's his name.
You got the guy that's kind of menacing in the brains, and then you got the almost like Michelangelo, the funny boy guy, where he's this kind of
Fun boy.
He's fun boy, and he's a drug addict.
Everyone's got a cool name.
Whatever. They all got cool nicknames. And then you have the main gang leader who. He doesn't even make sense. He's so over the top as a villain. He's got the lustrous long hair. He's got his Asian girlfriend that he also says is his sister, so I really don't remember what was
Same
up with
dad.
Biling.
And talks
Bai
like this.
Ling.
Is it biling?
That's biling.
It is
100%
biling,
biling.
being full biling.
Is she ever anything else?
I hope not. I hope that's just her in real life.
Pretty sure it is.
And then they hint at them being like some weird occultists where they like to cut out people's eyes, and there's a lot of occult stuff, not really Satan worshipping at all, but mysticism in this movie. And the whole crow aspect is supposed to be from a Native American lore about a soul who died being wronged so bad, filled with so much sadness and remorse that can be brought back to avenge whatever happened to him. So that's the whole basis of this. Even though they're all white guys. Even Brandon Lee's half.
You're out of time.
That would have been awesome. What you just said, if they would have put that at the very front of the movie with the crow thing. Because you're like, so the crow gives him magical power.
Yeah.
Like, but what you just said would have been awesome.
I'm taking that as the first 3 seconds of the 5 minutes of taking this down. Emily, I'm starting with you again.
Okay, all right.
With that
Because this
stink
movie
face.
has a major woman in refrigerators problem. Right in the opening fucking scene. His girlfriend, or fiance, does not get to be a character. She is there just to be raped and murdered so that it can motivate our male main character to get revenge. And it's such a cliche. And, I don't know, did you want to add?
Oh, yeah, I don't. That's terrible. And, The Rocketeer didn't have any rapes in it, so I'm just going
That's
to
true.
throw that out there. But,
Yours is definitely the rapiest movie.
yeah.
Well, yes, it is the crow.
But I also feel like it has another thing that I hate, which is bratty teenage kids, particularly when they're girls. Because she's not
not bratty.
She's not the worst.
I
of
wouldn't call her
this
bratty
thing,
at all.
But there is a very specific subset of alternative teenage kid that is basic. Like it's
Skateboard.
Yeah,
She has a skateboard.
got a skateboard.
The side of her hair
I
is
wear flannel.
buzzed.
I've got attitude, and
I'm wearing flannel.
I can
She
look
calls
after
her
myself.
mom by her real name.
Linda or whatever it is. It's probably Linda.
I thought it was Diane.
Oh, whatever.
I forgot
She
it.
looks like a Linda.
She did look like a Linda. And like she's like, I can take care of myself and blah blah blah. But really, I'm actually soft and delicate.
Well, this movie actually did all that before that really became a cliche. This movie started so many cliches.
And that's bad.
No, it's influential. It makes it like
So the
this
annoying things.
Well, I'm sorry, but this movie affected a lot of people and it stuck.
It's also like super 90s. At one point,
Yeah.
they go into a club, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the Bronze.
Right.
Or was the bronze want to be from the crow? Like
Maybe,
so that's
I
why I'm
don't know.
like truly like you watch this movie and you're like, oh, this is so exhausted. Oh, this is so exhausted. I'm like, it's exhausted because of how much people loved it. Loved this movie. This was a successful film. Even Roger
Except for the
Ebert
fact that it murdered its
praised
star.
this movie.
I think that so
The
Brandon
pers-
Lee is great.
Yeah.
He's super great in this movie. Don't have a problem with him at all. There's a thing about this movie that is almost like a peak example of all the comic movies that came out in the 90s, which was studios not really understanding how to interpret the material properly and ending up with something that it's like.
I would say that they did a good job. I really enjoy this comic book.
Well, there's okay, so I can't.
Have you read it?
I can't say I've read a bunch of the comics. But I feel like there's a translation that happens in anything supernatural or anything comic-y. And it's like Mortal Kombat, for example. There is a level of cheese that they cannot help but spread on the whole thing that undermines the goodness that's there, and it makes it very like Emily was saying, it makes it very much a product of its time, more so than you would expect, because it's not supposed to take place in any sort of time period. It just
honestly, I feel like this movie could exist in the same time period as Daredevil right now on Netflix. Like they make Hell's Kitchen
It's
look.
really 90s.
It's very 90s, but you could still like. It doesn't take that much updating.
It reminded me kind of like of Spawn, almost.
yeah, it kind of had a layer of hey
a
there,
better
fellow
plot than
kids.
Spawn.
And the Catwoman, like his, like when he's mutating into the crow, it's the Catwoman. When she becomes Catwoman, it's the exact shot-for-shot thing where he sees a little
That's
cat,
just mean.
and instead of like when
there's
she's sewing, is when he's
there's
putting
no
the makeup
cat crawling
on.
onto his face, breathing into it, and then
It was a crow.
suddenly
Sorry.
Sorry, the crow breathing into his face.
But the crow pecks on his tombstone. It's very symbolic. And then he does full zombie coming out. He doesn't feel well. He goes to his apartment, and he starts to have a lot of flashbacks, and
Does he eat, actually? I was wondering,
No,
does he eat
he's
so he can
dead.
take
He
a
doesn't
shit?
eat.
So then what does he
Gross.
do? Like, what, like, once he killed these people, like, what's the
broods.
next thing, though?
he
Right?
goes back to
That is
his
very
grave.
90s.
Yeah.
Like he's literally crawling back to his dead girlfriend's grave, going, "I did it." Or
I wish you
whatever.
had a personality.
Well,
Until he's
this-
reborn
she's
as Mark
dead.
Dacascos.
She didn't come back. This movie's not going to do a shit ton of flashbacks. It does like memory flashbacks, but it's not
Yeah,
going
to
to
how
do
perfect
expedition.
and ideal she was.
Yeah, well, that's what makes it romantic because he's fighting for her. Yes, you complain about her not having much of a character. She's not in the movie.
I know. She's just there to be raped and murdered.
She's a flashback.
Yeah.
She was a good person. She was trying to help people
Yeah.
getting evicted out of their houses or something. That's why they killed
I
her.
mean,
but
if
that's
she
all you
was
really hear
actually
about her.
supposed to be a real character, I'd understand your complaints more, but she was never supposed to be there.
That's the point. That's the whole women in
she-
refrigerators argument.
Well,
is that
no,
women
that's
aren't
because
real
they
people.
usually they try to establish them as a character and then kill them. Like that was never even a thing in this movie. The
And we're
movie's
out of
about
time.
Ernie Hudson was great in it.
Ernie Hudson was great and is the most
I forgot
realized
to
person.
say I have the Ghostbuster in my movie.
Yeah, but and he's also the most realized
Really
character
wish
of
that
color
had
in
come
any
out
of our movies.
in your time.
Yeah, there are
and
no
then it
people
would be
of
on your
color.
I'm
notes.
sorry.
I'm
Road
okay
to
with that.
Perdition is just like all white people.
All the time. So there's one
Speaking-
black guy in the elevator.
In
Elevator
the
operator.
elevator.
Did
Women
he live?
in the refrigerator,
yes.
black men in the elevator.
So speaking of Road to Perdition, that is came out way before Dredd. What am I even thinking of? Okay, so Road to Perdition. Here we go.
It is a Greek tragedy, pretty much, with it's three father and son stories all intertwined in one in the Depression era of 1931, the first year of the Depression. So stuff's going, it's when it's starting to really, really get bad for society, and pretty much doing stuff outside of the law is how you're going to make the most money. And we meet our character, Mike Sullivan, and he's a family man, and all you see is that one of the first things that you see about him is he takes a gun out, he takes a rosary out, he puts them on the table. So it just tells you what kind of person he is. Throws his jacket on it. The kids ask him for dinner. They go outside or they go eat dinner, and then pretty soon the kids, like, there's two brothers, and they ask each other, like, what's dad do? They don't really know what their dad does, and it turns out their dad works for a mobster. This mobster has pretty much runs the whole city, and Mike Sullivan has a very, very good relationship with his main boss, Paul Newman's character, Mr. Rooney, and Mr. Rooney almost likes him more than he likes his own son. So the son, Connor, which is played by Daniel Craig, is very jealous of Tom Hanks' character, Mike Sullivan. So it becomes very like he has so much jealousy in him, and he doesn't even know it, but he just knows, like, one day I'm going to get this guy and I'm going to get him out of the picture, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. And you just see it in his eyes and all the time. And this movie has very little dialogue, very, very little. It's like a lot of it's just with the eyes and just their emotions and just the way they really like counteract each other sometimes. Like they're like, what, like, you have to really think about when you're watching this movie, because it reads just like a comic book almost. It's just like looking at a panel, just those little details that you see in people's eyes and the wrinkles and stuff. It's almost like it's beautifully shot by Conrad Hall, and he won an Oscar for it. So there's one thing that none of these movies have, is an Oscar. And it was nominated for like 6 other Oscars too. But the main thing of this movie is it's about a father who has to do what he does for his family to not let them have to go through that. So all he's doing, he's trying to really throw everything on himself and do all the worst things he has to do to make his family happy, and doesn't want his family to end up in the same position as him. The kid wants to know so much what his dad wants to do that he ends up witnessing a murder. And now Connor is like, well, now we have a witness, and we should kill this little kid because he's going to tell him, and now we can kill Mike too, and then I could be Dad's favorite little guy. So he sets him up. He gives a letter to the club owner, and then Tom Hanks gives a letter to the club owner. The club owner opens it and says, kill this guy and all your debts are paid. And he's like, oh shit, and it's all in the eyes again. There's no words in it. And then he tries to grab his gun. Mike kills the guys. He rushes home because he knows the inevitable happened. They already wanted to kill him. He gets home. Whole family's dead. One of the kids survived. Hellbent on revenge story. Them two go. They want to hit the gang where it hurts the most, and they start bank robbing all of their accounts all over town, take all of their money, and pretty much when it comes down to it, they hire a killer to tell them, and the entire movie is just them being chased by, wonderfully acted by Jude Law, this murderer that takes pictures of dead bodies, so it's even creepier. And they just keep going and going and going, and they keep robbing banks, and then ultimately they end up in a the beach house where they were escaping to, and he was able to track them. And in the end, it's just a beautiful story on how it ends just like it began, with the little kid not knowing what his dad does and everything, and all he wanted to do was be like his dad. And in the end, the dad wanted his son to be nothing like him, so it was complete polar opposites. And he ends up doing the ultimate sacrifice for his son. And I mean, I'm gonna ruin it. He gets shot by Jude Law, and then as he gets shot by Jude Law and he's dying, and Jude Law's taking a picture of him, he, like, the little kid shows up behind him protecting his dad, and he's pulling a gun on him, and pretty much Jude Law's coming closer and closer to him, and he just cannot shoot him. And thankfully, as the dying father is looking at his son about to do something that he just does not want him to do, he just can't. I don't want my son to kill someone. I don't want to be a killer. And then at the very end, you see Jude Law just fall. You think the kid shot him. Turns out Tom Hanks did. He saved his son from having to live that life and everything. And the kid runs back away with this family that they saw earlier in the movie, where they ran away and just hid out and got recovered and everything. And then he goes and lives a happy little life with this little family that they knew for like 3 days. And it's pretty much one of those stories where it's very Shakespearean in the way where, yeah, the father doesn't want anything to do with it. He like it's really weird. The son wants to be just like his dad, and the dad wants him to be nothing like him because he doesn't know. And in the end, they both get what they wanted. And to me, that's probably the best kind of story. It's almost like a great comedy, like a comedian.
You're out of time.
They end it with a joke. With a joke.
Except with death.
Except with death.
Yeah.
All right, 5 minutes to say what. Emily, do you have notes on this one too?
I have 3 things. 2 things, really. This movie has a woman in refrigerators problem.
Yeah, I was just looking at the IMDb credits, and other than the wife, everyone's either waitress or prostitute or teacher.
There's
Yeah.
the old lady who
Jason
runs
Lee.
the farm, but yeah, she
Yeah.
gets one scene.
Real sausage fest.
Yeah, the mom exists to be a mom and then to die so that she can motivate the main character to get revenge on all the dudes who wronged him.
I'm
Again.
seeing a little.
At least mine was never established to even be a character in the movie. It sounds like yours was supposed to be a character at some point.
The first 5 minutes she's in it. And then,
Just a mom. That's her
and then
only
they offer.
purpose. Is to...
It almost is like you were saying, though. Yes, it is true. It's almost
Moms
like a
aren't
mom.
people.
She's like there with the kids and everything, and then they
take
kill her
great
off.
offense to that.
No, I mean, that's all she
Exactly.
is. She has
No,
nothing
Brian,
beyond
if someone
being a mother.
does kill me, please do go full movie rage on them.
Go John Wick.
Okay.
No, don't go John Wick, because John Wick didn't do anything until someone killed his dog.
Well, what's he gonna murder? Cancer?
I don't know.
That's the third movie
I'd be so into that movie.
It's also a very, very slow-paced movie. I paused to check it out. The inciting incident happens at minute 25. It's very slow.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's been worse.
Yeah.
It's true. There have been worse.
I will say that I did not see this movie, and I didn't see it when it came out because I saw the commercial, and it looked sad and boring.
It's not.
I feel like A History of Violence is a better movie.
I just have an issue where maybe it is because of the lack of female characters. I just don't really do mobster movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen very many of them. And
I'd say it's not even really a mobster. I mean, it takes place with mobsters and everything. It's really a father and son story.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
father and son stories are fun.
Are they?
Not this
he
one.
teaches him how to drive to be a getaway driver in the bank. That was kind of heartwarming.
I will say Daniel Craig was the perfect choice to play Paul Newman's son.
Oh, that was so good.
This is one of those movies where I, from a completely objective standpoint, recognize that it is good filmmaking. You have a lot of good actors in it, everything like that. But I just never have any interest in watching it. And I feel like that is a problem with a lot of the more serious graphic novels that get turned into movies, is the positioning of it and making it so that normal people who don't, quote unquote, normal people who don't care about, oh, it was a graphic novel, I didn't read it, or blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Like, could you get into it? And like when I see a trailer that has no women and no people of color, I'm not going to necessarily be into it. So, particularly as an adult, as a kid, you don't notice it you don't clock it as much, but like, this movie was what,
2004 or something.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very hardcore in being aware of that kind of stuff by that point. So like, it's just kind of like, and it sounds, and again, and the father and son thing, which I think is it's a well explored topic for a good reason. But did I need another one of those in my life at that moment? No, I did not. But that doesn't mean it's not a good movie.
It's beautifully shot. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can see why it won the Academy Award.
just
I mean,
sad and boring.
yeah.
It's not boring.
The story is
It's
not
sad. It's not
it's
boring.
The pacing is but the
I-
cinematography is gorgeous.
I have the same issue where I just didn't see it because it didn't hook me. So
So you didn't see it either?
I haven't seen
And
it.
you haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, but this is
You
the
like
thing.
it, right?
Just to tear it down.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm gonna be real honest. I didn't have a lot of time this week to do anything, so the reason I had 4 hours of sleep is because I wanted to rewatch The Rocketeer. But the fact that I would rather rewatch a movie that I've already seen
There you go.
as opposed to see one of the only movie at this table that I have not seen. I'm just saying,
There you
just
go.
throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Can you defend that?
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's an amazing movie. And yes, I mean, it takes place in 1931 where women just weren't that
shoved in refrigerators.
Yeah, that and like I said, like the only person of like the only black person in the whole movie was the elevator, and I noticed it when I was watching.
Yeah.
it. I was like, there were no.
But
black
like, honest to
people.
God, like if you're doing like a period piece in the 30s or 40s, and the only way you're gonna have people in colors, if you're gonna be people of color in it, is you're gonna be racist. I'd rather them not be there at all. So you're just throwing that out there. It's not like you're like, oh, you have to, but if it's gonna be like,
Which city does this movie take place in?
Chicago.
Oh.
outside Chicago and Chicago.
There's black people in Chicago.
there's
There's a lot.
kind of some. I mean, you know,
They were
one or two.
there's some
a lot
brown
in the
folks
South
there.
Side at that time. Otherwise, yes, they were all put into the service industry.
Yeah,
And there were a bunch of Irish mobsters too, though. Which are
Accurate.
Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
not
yeah.
black.
Irish people were not known for their racial equality.
Well, Irish people.
Not the ones in
Stanley
America.
Tucci's
Yeah,
Stanley
exactly.
Tucci's character could have been
Oh,
black.
that's out of time.
Okay,
All right. So we got one movie left.
America's
Yes,
Dad, Tom
the
Hanks,
best movie.
shooting people.
Also, while I was watching Road to Perdition yesterday, as soon as Tom Hanks appeared on screen, I was like, "Oh, I never friended Elvis on Facebook." so he and I had a conversation.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Dredd.
Dredd is a fucking fabulous movie because it had a legacy to like murder because the original movie with Sylvester Stallone was garbage. So it was like it blew it out of the water. It was like that movie was a piece of shit. This movie is fucking awesome. And it takes place in a future where law enforcement is judge, jury, executioner on the spot. And so Judge Dredd, who never takes off his helmet because he never does in the comic book, so that's pretty rad. Carl Urban is fabulous, and you never see his face. Because this movie is not really about Dredd. This movie is about a rookie cop who is not really making the grade, but she's also psychic, and she's a woman, and they give her one last chance to go out on a day with Dredd and let him evaluate to see if there's a chance that she can be a real cop. So they go into this building called Peach Trees, which is run by this gangster named Mama, played by Lena Headey, and so a female villain. And then when she discovers these cops are here and they're investigating this brutal murder that happened on her watch, she shuts the building down and they have to fight their way up to like arrest. Well, really, they're trying to arrest the guy who like murdered these dudes. And she doesn't want that guy to get out and turn her in and cause trouble. So they have to fight their way up and kill Mama and basically kill every single person in the fucking building who was trying to kill them. But along the way, you get... Every person in this building feels like a real person. They all have an identity. They all have a history. They're not just easily killed. There's a point at which our main character, Anderson, I think is her name, she gets really Anderson. She kills someone and then later on she meets that man's wife and she's just like, just get out of the building because my husband's out there and I don't want you to kill him. And then she realizes she's already killed him. So there's consequences for your actions. She doesn't just brutal murder. It comes back around. There's also this really great scene where she psychically goes into this guy's head and he's like, oh, it's my head. So he imagines himself raping her and she puts a stop to it immediately and then terrifies him so much that when he comes out of his head, he's in a puddle of his own piss. So it's just such a great feminist moment. It's like, oh, you're going to imaginary rape me? Fuck you. You just pissed your pants, asshole. And I made that happen. It's also, I really love the Mama character because she was a prostitute and some John scarred up her face. And she was just like, oh, well, I can't use my body as my business anymore. Fine. I'll make murdering everyone in this building and taking over the drug trade my business. Fuck you. All you men work for me now. It's fucking fabulous. It's the slow-mo drug that everybody's into. It makes your brain slow down. And they do that cinematically. They show whenever anyone is taking this drug, they use slow motion and there's really cool lighting effects and probably some CGI mixed in to make it feel slow, and it's just beautifully shot. When people die, sometimes it's just beautiful. Like there's a scene where Mama, finally, spoiler alert, Mama falls down at the end very, very slowly. When she lands, we're looking up at her as her face smashes into the pavement, and it's brutal and gross, but like gorgeous. So the cinematography is fabulous. The story is fabulous. All the characters have agency. It's a feminist movie, but it's violent. And I love this movie. Let me see, what else did I write down? I wrote some really cool stuff. We shoot really tight angles on Anderson because she's psychic and we're always like in her head and she's a sympathetic character. We almost never shoot any tight angles on Dredd. The only time we get a tight shot of his face is when he's starting to lose his control of his emotions. Because the entire time he's so stoic, and at one point he finally gets angry and she has to pull him back. And that's the only time that I can remember us being in a real close-up on his face. The rest of the time we're really distant from him. He's always sort of this distant character, and it's cinematically it plays out in the same way that you feel emotional. It's just really beautiful and excellent filmmaking. And it just and I think I felt the same way a lot of other people did when I saw the ads. It's like, I don't know, Judge Dredd was a bad movie, so I don't know if this one's going to be any good. And I think that's why it didn't make a whole lot of money at the box office, because I think a lot of people felt the same way. And that's a shame. Like Chewie was saying when we came in, it's really upsetting how many people did not see this in the theaters, because we might have gotten, I mean, there were rumors about a sequel. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
They tried to do a Netflix show.
Did they?
Yeah.
I think it's still trying to make
Yeah, they're
it.
still trying to.
That's good. I
With
would
Carl
watch that.
Urban there. I think the Carl Urban securing is the thing that's
That would be cool.
helping out.
Everyone should just go to Carl Urban movies.
Yeah.
He's fucking gorgeous.
He is amazing. But you never see his face. And
He's
that's,
still-
I think, is
but that's-
really,
but
really
that's
cool.
I'm not gonna
Uh,
feed into you.
But I think that's really cool that you never see his face, because you don't in the comic book, but also because it just keeps him being distant, and it keeps reminding us that this story isn't really about him. At the end of the movie, he's not so terribly changed. He's kind of the same guy. A little bit changed maybe, but not by much. But Anderson has really found herself and gained confidence and become a cop, and decided that this is, that she can do this. I just think it's super fucking great.
Good timing.
I thought she didn't become a cop though. Didn't she give her badge back to Dredd?
We got 5
Oh
minutes.
yeah, you're
And
right.
then walks
She did.
away.
But he said she could be. He said she deserved to become a cop. Like at the end, he was like,
She
yes.
gives away her badge, but then he tells her superior that she passed.
She passed.
And then back to that whole little badge thing with all like, I'm gonna start ripping it now.
Go for it.
Like the whole time when they do the Gatling gun thing and they kill everyone and everything, I don't understand why they didn't take their helmets, their stuff off, and put it on a dead body and then just shot the face up so they couldn't like recognize it or anything, and then just like they could just pretend they were like other people, like just laying dead, and then got up later. Like to me, like that would have been the whole movie. And then they were like, they had that guy that pissed his pants the whole time, and they were like, it was like, you're telling me you couldn't like gag him up, tie him up, and throw him in a corner somewhere, and then go do what you got to do. Instead, they're taking him the whole time with them. It's like, and he's not. He could just be, hey, they're over here, and he never
Yeah,
does
he tries
it.
that, and she reads his mind, and then basically lets him know that if he does that, he's going to end up paying the price for it.
But then, and again, like you just said, they're going up this whole building to get this one person that killed 3 people. And in the time they're doing that, they've already killed 30 people by the time they're at the 3rd floor, and they still have another 100. They kill another 1,000 people probably in this movie to get one guy that they never really got. And it's just the whole purpose of the movie. I didn't understand it. I was like, so, and the Raid did it better.
Actually, Peach Trees, which is the original screenplay for Dredd, was the title of Peach Trees, and it was actually on the blacklist. It was written before The Raid was made. So this
The Raid
movie
was
actually
better.
was written first. Well, this movie is not the same thing as The Raid. The Raid is much more about violence and just about one man's journey, whereas Dredd is much broader in scope and has a much bigger story to tell and is much more artistic instead of being... I love both movies, and I think there's room for loving both movies.
The Protector actually did the whole going up.
Oh, there you
multiple
go.
That's
levels
very true.
first.
That's very true.
If we're going to talk about who did it first.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not a brand new concept.
Tony Jaa in this movie would have been amazing.
That would have been amazing.
I don't care who did it first, just so you know. We don't
But
keep harping
the
on
thing,
that.
it's
Better.
interesting for me how you keep saying that Anderson's the main character, because she is the first one. You meet her before Dredd. That is true, right?
No.
No?
No, you meet him in the opening scene, and that's actually my answer to your question about, like, they kill all these people in order to protect one. That's established in the opening shot. Dredd doesn't care that a pedestrian has been killed, except that it broke the law. Dredd's concern is not about saving lives. Dredd's concern is about following the law. This guy murdered people, therefore he must pay a price. Anderson cares about people. Dredd is concerned about the law. So for him, getting that guy murdered people, therefore he needs to be arrested. And whatever how they do that
kill him right away. I don't quite understand.
Because she's not 100% sure that he did it.
Okay. But even so, like, I've watched this movie multiple times. I did see it in theaters and everything. And however much I really enjoy Anderson's character, I never thought she was the main character. To me, the main character was always Dredd. Because to me, he gets most of the screen time. He makes most of the decisions. And I feel like there was a lot more close-ups than you're actually giving it credit to.
Yeah. He did a couple times.
There really aren't as many close-ups of him as there
I
are
am
of her.
the law.
Because I thought that was really cool as I was watching the movie, how often we see him at a distance and we see her up close.
And for me, yes, it is a great movie for women, but saying it's a big feminist movie, I mean, the whole movie is about him judging her. Him judging Mama and him judging Anderson.
He judges everybody equally.
Yeah, he judges everybody.
He's a judge.
So,
that's his job.
And then at the end, though, you said that, or you just finished saying, like, in the beginning, like, he's the law and that's all he cares about are the rules. But then you said at the end that he's going to let her be a cop, even though she lost her gun and, like, didn't.
But she did make up for it.
Yeah, she
lost her gun.
She ended up doing the job. Yeah. Like, they succeeded their mission, and they took down this huge. They ended up taking down, like, the drug kingpin of the city. So, you know.
And one more, my last thing, for an hour and, like, half movie, 20 minutes of it is in slow motion. It's like, use your time more.
Yeah, people complain about that with Zack Snyder all the time, and they don't complain about it in this movie.
See, I don't mind it in this movie because it's for a purpose. It's not just like, ooh, we'll do this in slow motion. It's intentionally done to give you the feeling.
They gave it a reason, but otherwise it is a lot of the times done like, this is cool looking.
It is cool looking.
When you see, like, the bullets hit
explained
the
it away
flat
with
the
this
skin.
drug, but it's
so
otherwise
cool.
it's the same sort of thing as Zack Snyder films, where it's just like, this is beautiful. Ah, damn.
And I did like Rob Schneider better than the guy they had.
Oh,
That's
God.
okay.
First of all, how dare you?
Yeah.
Tamara, do you have anything to say?
Not really. It's hard because I like the movie, so it's hard for me to think of things.
I love this movie, but
but it's just trying because, like, I'm thinking about the criteria into which I am judging on my things or things.
Yeah,
of,
yours
like,
is way more family friendly.
It's more family friendly, but
do not
like,
take your children to
this
see
movie
Dredd.
is,
don't take
this
your-
is not for kids.
No, it's definitely not for kids. But from a perspective of how close are you to your comic, they're pretty close. So
Yeah,
I
Mega Suit.
can't.
And that's it.
So, yeah, like
Very
we weren't
close to
arguing
the
that.
material.
No, I know. So, but it was, not. I'm not even ripping on it anyway. So I'm just gonna finish my thought.
Tamara had nothing bad to say about Dredd.
I mean, I'm sure there's bad things to say, but I was just trying to think of like what's a very specific like bit in the armor that I could really like break, and
It's a tough one.
it's a tough one to do.
Okay, so to judge this thing is a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I actually think everyone did a very good job defending it, and actually a really good job bringing them down, because that's where I thought I was going to have to rely on this one, is who got ripped down the most, and is pretty much equal across the board. Every movie had problems, but everyone was really able to defend the problems for the most part. There's a lot of refrigerator talk. So here, I'm going to go with the things that I wish people had brought up as much as I can. So the one thing that I wish that Diego had brought up is that Road to Perdition is a dude's movie. It is a hunt. I know almost every guy I know loves it. Almost every woman I know either doesn't want to watch it or thinks it's boring. It is a man's movie. And
Is it like A Boy's Life?
it is very much like A Boy's Life. I wish that had been
Oh
brought
my
up.
god, it's just like May.
I wish the Rocketeer had brought up the action, because I think the action is so dated, the movie's almost unwatchable. But the movie's still... Every movie on the table I fucking love, so it's really tough to judge against it. Dredd, I don't remember what argument I really wanted to make against it, but there was something and it didn't quite come up. And then for The Crow, they really hammered the one that I wanted, which is just, again, so dated it's almost unwatchable. But I think
Unwatchable.
I just want to go to my guitar and just play.
Yeah.
He's got
My
emotions,
solo.
guys.
it's like I can hear the grunge coming out of the screen.
That's why I'm like, it's the epitome of the morose goth.
Yeah.
Like that's why I mean it's like all the romance. The reason that people become goths is like in that embodied in The Crow.
Pretty much.
So I'm gonna give it to who I think defended their movie the best, and it's not my favorite movie on the table, and I have to go with The Rocketeer.
I was not expecting that at all.
And it was not only because she brought up Green Lantern, which was a very solid move.
That movie was terrible.
It's really not, though.
No,
Yeah, The Rocketeer is not terrible.
No, not The Rocketeer. Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Green Lantern movie's awful. I've never defended that. I love it, but it's awful.
We're talking about the character and not the
But
movie.
the long and the short of it was that it was the most, for me, solid argument of why it's dated but still works, and why the characters are not fully the argument just worked to fully sell me on it. And honestly, my favorite movie on the table is Road to Perdition, but like I said, I'm a dude, so that makes sense. And even like when I was leaving my apartment today, I told Chewie, I'm like, you guys have a steep battle today because I am very locked and loaded for Road to Perdition right now. But that said, every movie here is really fucking good. And if you haven't seen them, although we just spoiled the hell out of them, you should definitely watch
We should do
them.
worst comic book adaptation.
Oh, we don't have enough time for that.
Meteor Man.
Oh, well, that's not an adaptation.
Surrogates.
Actually, I'm
It's
surprised
terrible.
nobody, I tried to lean into it, but I'm surprised nobody brought up the fact that Dredd just fetishizes the fuck out of violence.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but like my thing about like the reason why I didn't bring that up at the end was because it's a UK comic basically specifically about the abuse of force by police. Yeah. So it leans into that, and that's like the point of it. And I think that they do a good job at making it an enjoyable film while not playing that down. It's not hitting it at like the exact levels that you could hit it at, but it's the best version of it so far.
So they did better than with Stallone.
Well, but tomorrow you won.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have our winner.
Your movie is
Tamara.
delightful.
Yeah, I just want to hug it. See? Hugs.
It is the only movie at the table that you feel good about after you watch.
Very true. Very true.
You finish, it's like, that was fun. No, I'm going to go cry in the shower.
One more thing about just Dredd was how come he's always low on ammo? How come he never uses the bad guy's guns? Did they ever explain
Because
that?
it's not his guns.
Yeah, and it's also
He
key
only
to
uses his gun,
Yep.
and he can only use his gun.
It's not that he can. That's just what he does.
It's
That's what I
also
mean, though.
key
It's
to
like-
his DNA or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm talking about the bad guy's guns when he's out of ammo.
And I
It's
was
like
going to say Carl Urban's sexy no matter what, so you don't need to see his whole face.
You really
You
don't.
don't.
Just
No.
those sweet,
His
sweet
mouth.
lips.
And as a hetero man, his butt looks good in
His
those
butt
pants.
It
looks
does.
great.
It looks great.
There's a reason why he's in my cheat list.
Yeah, he makes me hate my butt.
Yeah.
Just
I love your
sad.
butt, honey.
this is an anecdote that has nothing to do with anything other than to talk about that Carl Urban is hot. I was in the Almost Human.
I love that show, and I'm
Yes.
so sad.
Almost Human is a great show, and I'm eternally sad that it's not still on and that Fox foxed it. But I was in the press room for that at Comic-Con, and it was like one of those weird days where I had like 15 things going on, and so I came into the room slightly late, so I had to like squeeze in on the round tables. So I just sat in a chair and I wasn't paying attention, and then they're like, "Okay, we have Carl Urban," and then he sits right next to me.
Whoa.
So
Oh my God.
and I'm asking a question, and there's Carl Urban just looking me in my face, and it was nice.
Oh my God.
I'm not gonna lie, it was not a bad
Chewie
thing.
just become a blubbering mess.
Yep.
And I
I'm
also
allowed to have sex with you.
that's all you say to him.
I need to bring this thing to a close before we start masturbating Carl Urban. Okay, so we're going to do a quick round of plugs. I will go first. I have recorded the first 2 episodes. I'm recording 2 more tomorrow of our new podcast, which will be in the same feed. So if you're listening to us, you will already find it there. And that is Venture Bros, the Venture Brothers podcast, where we review each and every episode of the Venture Brothers. And then you can find us, of course, on athpod.com.
I don't have anything to plug other than it's all interesting already being an almost parent because I've already lectured people about something.
yeah.
I had one dude trying to shame parents for going to Coachella, and I'm like, dude, you can take vacations from your kids, bro.
Yep.
They're
Everything's going to be
very
okay.
needed.
Yeah.
A plug for vacations from your kids.
Yeah.
There we go.
No.
Like, we're already planning it.
My website for cosplays, Emily Blake's www.emilyblakesewz.com is up. And also, I have just put, if you are interested in cosplaying as the new 13th Doctor, I have put 13th Doctor coats up in my Etsy shop. So you can go on Etsy, you can order the coat, and you'll have it in like 2 to 3 weeks. And that is Emily Blake Sews on Etsy. I am currently the only person selling that coat on Etsy.
Nice.
What?
Corner the market.
Yep. Anything that new I'm working with, I'll talk about on Twitter at Misfits Tamara. And also, I am the Supergirl weekly columnist for the TV show on DCComics.com. So if you want to hear about my weekly thoughts about Supergirl, the TV show, you can go there and check me out.
And what's the name of your wrestling podcast?
Women Wrestling Friends. Oof.
And Diego, you have your own podcast as well?
Yes, it's called Crew Stories. It's at crewstories.org, or you can go on our Facebook page, Crew Stories, and it's really just about the trials and laughter and everything that happens in people that work on film crews, and we interview them. And it's an edited podcast. It's not just like this where we're talking. It's very like NPR-ish, and we break it down, and it's fun.
So you talk like this today on
Welcome.
Crew
It's very
Stories.
Ira Glassish. Like,
Welcome to Crew Stories. I'm Diego Mariscal.
and we got like 4 episodes, and we're working on another one right now, and we're gonna release it once we have like 10 episodes, just so people could binge it.
You can interview 3 of the people at this table.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We all work in the industry.
You should try interviewing me while I'm in labor.
Or not.
It's a big one, actually. Getting pregnant and like how you're gonna like that. That's actually one of our big segments on a buddy of ours on what they did with work and having babies. And it's a big thing.
I'm
and
just quitting.
And people don't know, like, you don't know who to talk to. You know other people to talk to, but to actually have it on a podcast where anyone all over the country or the world can hear it and be like, oh, that's how they did it. Like, I have a grip friend that only doesn't work Fridays, period, no matter what. And he actually found enough crews that will float him for that day for Friday, and actually works 4 days a week. And his wife doesn't work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and she works Friday, Saturday. So he's a full-time parent for 3 days, and they were able to do that. And
That's
it's
awesome.
really interesting, yeah.
Do you have a launch date in mind for this?
As soon as the 5th one's done.
Cool. So as
Like-
soon as the 5th one's done.
Yeah, probably
in the month of when that is.
within the end of this month.
Okay.
We should be done. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Anticipation, guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
So everyone look for that, and look for the women wrestling and Super and all this stuff. We just gave you a whole bunch of shit to go do, and it all sounds awesome. So thank you very much for everyone for listening, and
Bye.
Hello.